What's going on, everybody? Kwaku here, back with another video. As I said, we're going to talk about the Fluent Design system of Windows, and Fluent Design was kind of a departure from Metro. In fact, it's a major departure from Microsoft's last major design language, which was Metro. And Metro, if you don't know what that was, if you don't know what that term even is, if you ever used Windows 8, you know you've seen Metro. And Metro was that big blocky look, almost like this little cheat sheet of paper that I'm using, and imagine like a big circle being drawn on it to indicate maybe options or something to click on. And that was essentially Metro, because if you would go on a Metro, like in DC, in New York, whatever it is, you would see those big blocky letters out in the distance so that you can easily get to where you needed to go and know where you were going. But Fluent Design came far later on, and that's where we're at today. Now, Fluent Design is, like I said, a complete departure from Metro, complete changes. It started coming in Windows 10 essentially, and it was just an interesting and different change. And basically, if you don't know about code names, Fluent Design, I have it written right here. Fluent Design was Project Neon, and it was officially unveiled as the Fluent Design system. Basically a new design language developed by Microsoft in 2017. I'm just reading off of this thing here. Now, there are some tenets to Fluent Design, which are light, depth, motion, material, and scale. So those are just what Microsoft writes as their 5 tenets of Fluent Design. And one thing you'll notice with light is especially that this piece of paper right here that I've written all these notes on, you can see that light barely passes through it. If I talk like this, you can barely see my face because it's pretty much opaque. In Fluent Design language, in the background of your application, so imagine if you see this piece of thing right here, and I'll blow it up on the screen. On the background of an application, you might notice that what you're focusing on is completely opaque, meaning you can just not see through it. You can't see past it, because that's the most important thing you're trying to look at. You're trying to type out your Word document, you're trying to type in your email, whatever it is. That's the most clear thing that you're trying to look at. Now, if you look in the backgrounds around applications that have been designed under this design language, you'll notice that those applications have a little blur in the background. They have a little blur, and they have a little like acrylic-y feel, and I'll mention what acrylic is later on in this video, but in general, you can see through the background to whatever's underneath it. And that's a major thing that you'll notice with Fluent Design versus Metro. And I'll get to the arrow talk later on. But in general, Metro, for the Windows 8 days, you couldn't see through anything. It was all opaque. Everything was just colored and opaque, and that was it. You couldn't see past any element. In Fluent Design, you can see through those background elements because they're layered. There's just layers and layers and layers. So your front layer, as you see my front hand, will be your information essentially layer, where anything you're about to type in, that's the front end. The background layer right here, my backhand, was everything that's going to be blurred, and that kind of makes it so that way you can, again, focus on what you're doing. You know, stay in your zen, stay in your flow of your panos. So that's essentially, in a nutshell, just a general thought of Fluent Design. Now, some examples of Fluent Design. So if you are, or even acrylic design, if you use the latest Microsoft Edge and you're using Windows 11 right now, let's say you bought a new computer or you upgraded to Windows 11, you probably have seen Fluent Design somewhere. It's in the new Edge. If you look in the background elements, if you right-click certain elements on Windows 11, you'll notice that those context menus, those right-click menus, are see-through. And that's essentially one of the things that you'll notice, that is a more fluent-looking application. So when someone says, this is not very fluent, who designs in that design language, you can see what they're talking about, because you can't see past it. That means that front and center layer is just opaque and it's just blocky, and that's it. You'll know that that isn't fluent. Now, if there are some applications that I have looked at on the channel, in fact, pretty much all of the applications that I looked at on this channel, you'll notice some examples of that, and I'll kind of flash those across the screen so you guys can see some samples of what I'm talking about. I'll even circle some things for you to see. Now, you'll also hear another kind of talk about the word mica, M-I-C-A. Now, the idea of mica was introduced in Windows 11, because remember, Fluent Design was still around in Windows 10 in like 2017. But mica was introduced in Windows 11, and that pretty much was for those long-lived surfaces, those surfaces that stay up for a long time, that you would see typically on your computer, like on your desktop. Mica was introduced in there, and that's just another layer on top of another layer to just, it can get really confusing. You know how Microsoft works, nothing is ever straightforward, unfortunately, but essentially, in a nutshell, just overarching everything to keep the video very simple. If you're trying to spot something that is fluent, or in the word fluent as a verb, or whatever the English text is, if you're trying to spot something that's fluent, you'll basically just notice that the center elements, the things that you're working on the most, like your text document itself, that's not going to be as see-through. And then the background will be more blurred. Now, some developers may change that up, and they might want the background, the center elements, a little blurred just because they want to be very fluent. But usually what you'll see on these more enterprise applications that have these new design language elements in them is the main document or the main focus of your thing, of your application, will be opaque, and then the background elements will be more blurred. Therefore, you can see what bleeds through to the background, which is your desktop or your browser, whatever you have open. You can see what other programs are underneath it, and you won't see them clearly. You'll see them kind of blurred. It'll be a little shiny, and that's where we get to the acrylic talk about it too, because that translucent blur in the background is that acrylic-y material. You know, you don't see it straight through. It's not like the Arrow design language of Windows 7, where some things in the background, they're a little blurred, but they still look kind of shiny and glassy. In Windows 11 and late Windows 10, things just aren't glassy anymore. Things are just kind of flat and matte. If you've seen a matte screen where it's not really reflective, things are kind of like that versus the Windows 7 days and Vista days where things are shiny. So that's in a nutshell what Microsoft's Fluent Design language system is. There's a lot more that I can dig into that, but I'm just keeping it simple in this video. Now, you might be wondering also why I'm bringing this up all of a sudden instead of the usual app reviews and other things, and that's because I'm actually going to finally start getting into doing some concept work. I usually look at people's concept work, but I actually am going to be publishing my own concept work for various things, some redesigns like some people do and some of those other things, but it'll be my own thing as well. So maybe some people of you guys will take a look at it and critique it too. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And there's one more thing that I wanted to introduce is the Discord channel. There's a Discord server or channel, whatever you want to call it now, for Next Windows, and it's in the description box below if you want to check it out, if you want to join it. Not much goes on right now. There's about 15-ish or 20 people in that server right now, and some familiar faces in there as well, and it's continuously growing every week or so. So just check it out. If you have any questions, you can put it in the server. Someone there might answer. If you have any questions for me, you can even put it in the comment section, and I might answer. But yeah, as always, my name is Kwaku, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.